Sorry, we were a little bit in conversation there, which is why we're slow on the draw. Matt just said, "Oh, hang on, we should probably go live."
We should probably go live.
Good evening. We're looking at Cane Creek today. We were chatting about what was going on in the chat, and we'll address your comments as time goes on. Matt is going to be driving us through Cane Creek here on launch day. Hello, Matt.
Hello. Right, let's take a look at Cane Creek. I'm going to give the usual run down the menus before we actually get in the train.
Cool.
And so in the journey, we have 6 chapters with assorted tasks and challenges and so on and so forth. So there's tons to do here in the journey there that'll keep you amused. And obviously that will...
Just to slow you down, because you have a tendency to charge ahead ever so slightly. What's journey mode actually for?
So journey mode is without journey mode, what happens is you've got this stuff here. You've got a bunch of stuff, and you've got more bunches of stuff, and more bunches of stuff. And if you know what you're doing and you're familiar with the game, that's great. But a lot of people play the game don't know. Well, what's the next thing I should do? Where's the fun in this thing? What's a good thing for me to do? And they start off quite often with, well, I'll do the scenarios. And I can start at the top and work. Once you then get into service modes, particularly on other products, that got 400 services in them, it's just too much choice.
Timetable mode.
Timetable. It says it.
We changed the name last year.
I know, but I'm stuck in the past.
Yes.
You've got timetable mode, and if you've got 400 things to do, and you're not familiar necessarily with it, then it becomes really difficult to pick. So journey mode was designed to provide order. So if you just start at the beginning and at the end of everything that you do, it will say, do you want to do the next thing? And then it'll take you on to the next thing. And when you've done this chapter, it'll move straight on to chapter 2, and you'll do the next thing and the next thing. And if you want to come back, go away and come back, you can see which bits you've done, and you can just move on to the next one. Or in fact, in this screen, there is a continue button, which will literally just take you to the next thing that you hadn't started yet in order.
Right.
So journeys are a really good way to just go through. Now, journey is just running the scenarios. It's just running the services. It's not additional gameplay. What it's doing is it's ordering that gameplay into some form of sequence, which usually be around 24 hours worth of gameplay in total. And then there will be stuff that after you've done the entirety of the journey, you'll come back into here, you'll go into scenario, and you'll see that almost pretty much every scenario probably will have something against it saying you've done it, because generally we use all of the scenarios in the journey, but the timetable probably won't. So you'll come in here and you'll click continue, and some of these will have medals on them and some of them won't. So at this point, you've done 24 hours in this add-on. You probably now know at this point what you liked and what you want to do more of, so you can see that stuff. So that's kind of journey is gets you in, and you don't have to do journey. If you do the first 5 or 6 and you think, I know what I'm doing now, you can just ignore it and go back on and do what you want to do. The options are always there.
Good. Yeah, so the short version of it is it's a curated way to play the route. Yeah. So we put things in a logical order so that someone who just goes, show me this route, take me through it, they have it delivered to them on a plate almost.
Yeah, we had this question quite a lot. One of the things that inspired its edition was when we go out to exhibitions and someone would do the tutorial, and they'd enjoy the tutorial and they'd say, right, what's next?
Yeah.
And they shouldn't have to ask that. The game should just tell them. If you know what you want to do, you can do it. But if you don't, the game should just be like, right, more fun here.
Yeah, good. Okay, right, you can get back on topic again now.
Right.
I just pick up on things that we don't often talk about.
No, it's a good call. It's a good call. We haven't explained Journey for a while, and I have seen some people in the forums talking about it. And it is. So, like I said, it'd be good for some people, and it's completely irrelevant for others. And you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
Right, so in here you've got training. So we've got the route introduction. You've got the SD40 training, and you've got the GE44 training as well. So again, as usual, if you haven't, don't know how to drive the locos, the tutorials are there just to give you a really basic introduction on how to get them moving, how to make them stop. Scenarios. We've got a couple of shorter ones here that were added because all the other ones are really long. So Skyhook actually made these 2 extra scenarios on top of the normal ones because they wanted to realise down here you've got 80 minutes, 2 hours, 2 hours, 80 minutes, 80 minutes. There's some quite long scenarios in here. So these ones are a bit more bite-sized. Then you've got more longer scenarios which you can get your teeth into. And then there are some... like this Canyon Explorer and things like that, where they're free roamy, what they call free roam type scenarios. It says here this is a free roam type scenario, where you can move within a constrained environment, but where there's manual junctions, and you can kind of do what you like in that section. So you've got a bit more, freedom to do what you like. There are not really any goals. You can basically do what you like. So
we see this is the first I've heard of a free roam scenario.
This
is something else we should highlight.
Yes, it's been there since Sandpatch Grade. Even so, Sandpatch Grade has a scenario called Cumberland Switchback, where you are inside the confines of Cumberland Terminal, and because it's all manual junctions, the fact that you can't escape past signalling and automatic junctions is irrelevant. You've got miles of track inside Cumberland Terminal that you can switch trains and cars to your heart's content, and these kind of follow the same thing. So these are nothing. If you are familiar with things like Cumberland Switchback and the like, these are nothing new. There's no new tech here. This is not letting you explore through points and signals and the like. But what it's trying to do is give you a little bit more freedom to move in a constrained environment where the signals really aren't going to get in your way. I don't really think there is much in the way of signals on this line, which is one of the reasons that you've got big sections here. You can just do what you like in, really.
Okay. Right, so what's our agenda for this evening?
So one of the things we've done the 2 previous streams, and one of the things that we haven't really done is just drive one into the other. Now I'm not going to drive all the way from the other where the Potash, because we have driven from Potash to Moab a few times now. So I'm going to go Moab to the main line. I'm going to switch to the weathered train because all trains should be dirty. It's the law.
Yeah.
Right, and then we're going to run this one because it's my old favourite. It also means that I can slowly walk you through setting up the banking com as well.
Okay.
Right, so we are in. Look at the visuals. What a stunning way to open. I love that.
It is nice.
It is good, isn't it? Right, I'm going to push the independent brake on. I'm going to pull that back to suppression, full service. Right, we need to enable the brakes, so we need to cut the brakes in on the lead loco, which is this one. On the menu screen here, you've got 2 rows of icons. These are your function commands. They map exactly to these function and number keys down the bottom here. So you can't click on them on the screen. These buttons map to them. So air brake is the number 1, the bottom left one. You click that and you can control the air brakes. You need to do the cut in out, which is F3, because it's the top row, number 3. That changes that to cut in. You want to change the independent brake to cut in, to lead, and then you want to save those changes, which again is number 6 here. And then you can hear the brakes starting to come to life. So we press 8 and that's out. This is the equivalent on some of the older locos like the SD40 of operating valves and so forth. This is just the modern computerized version, and yes, the tutorial takes you through that. I'm going to put the front headlights on. Now if I just stand up a minute and kneel down here, there are 3 switches here. Almost makes it more easy to see. The outer 2 are on and the bottom one is off. This is generator field. You want that one switched on. What this does is it engages the engines. So without that, moving the throttle lever does nothing. So you need to make sure all these 3 are on. And that's the same in the other locos, the SD40s. Are the 3 switches on the control stand. They've just moved them down here on this one.
So how do we enable the alerter without using the keyboard?
I don't know on this one, if I'm completely honest. Normally there's a fuse on the back here, but the last time I looked I couldn't find it. Because I think all the fuses except for DPU is on. Window heaters, that's essential obviously. Refrigerator, fun. So there doesn't appear to be an alerter switch, so no, I meant to go.
Jan is saying it's inside the panel.
The panel.
No, the chap believes that apparently alerter is keyboard enable only.
Oh, on the older locos, like in the SD40, yes, you pull a fuse panel open, but I don't think this one has that. I don't know why that is. It should. There's nothing down here.
Okay. All right. Well, look, if you can't, you can't. It's there is occasionally some things you can do on some locos and some that you can't when we put them out. So these things happen.
Right. So I now need to take a wander, have a stroll down the back. Now on PC you can just press Control minus, but on console you have to walk down. So I'm going to walk down because not only that, we get to see some nice, pretty visuals. Well,
yeah,
lovely. So having a stroll down the back end of the train, and the key thing to do with the back loco is we need to turn its generator field on, so that it can actually excite the engines and make power happen.
Right. So there's no dynamic connection between the two of them then?
No. So the way that the game simulates locos that are not directly coupled together is using this banking com system. In reality, it's done using a system called DPU, which requires setup on the computer screens, but we haven't got the information to set all of those computer screens up in the game yet. So this is the way we've done it. So this is the same way we've done it on a lot of trains.
Right.
So let's just sit down here. So, actually, no, I don't need to sit down. I just need to turn the generator field on, which is that one.
It's the middle switch.
It is.
You showed me that a moment ago. Yeah. I'm familiar with it now.
Right, now we've got the generator field on. We don't need to do anything with the brakes because this loco won't be actually commanding the brakes.
Right.
It will slave off the other one. We just need to make sure it can take power. And then we are off, back to the lead.
Is it true that you're leaving Dovetail, Matt? Rumours say that your job is advertised online.
Wow. Okay.
Is there something we haven't told you?
This is definitely something you haven't told me, yeah. Jeez. That's what a way to find out.
No, Matt's not going anywhere. He's not allowed.
I've literally been glued to my seat, which is fine. No, I keep an eye on the new. Wasn't aware anything even remotely confusing for my job title had gone up. There was one for executive producer, and that would be my boss.
Executive producer is less hands-on than Matt is. So exec producer is far more accountable to the head of development and the kind of the most senior people in the company, but doesn't do as much overseeing of the day-to-day nuts and bolts getting something built. Matt is very much in the day-to-day making sure that stuff is getting built.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a disconnect. It's a slightly elevated position.
The question was asked whether or not I'd like the role, but I'm not interested.
Rather like the difference between the producer and the exec producer on a movie.
Yeah.
Is there a manual provided for this expansion? There should be a quick start guide, if nothing else.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Everything comes with a guide to get you started, at least. We know that our manuals are very, very much lacking, and it is something that we're investigating, but we've got no news on that at the moment.
Yeah. So I sat down here. Literally, all you do is you come up to the radio and click on Banking Com. That's it. We're now set up. What Banking Com means is I command all the trains in this pack, all the remote trains. You don't need to use Banking Com if you've got, say, 2 locos at the front, because the local the big orange cable essentially handles that. But if you've got other trains that are not directly coupled, switching Banking Com on this loco means this one is driving. If you go into the back loco and turn Banking Com on that, then you can drive the train from the rear loco.
Right.
So whichever one you've turned Banking on, don't turn Banking Com on both locos. That gets nothing productive happens. Put it that way. Right. So now I'm going to just get the brakes releasing. I've left the independent brake on so that hopefully we'll stay in the same place. But we'll just watch the brakes come back up.
Strike Eagle's making a manual versus automatic gag there. As much as I may not be laughing my face off, I will acknowledge that that's a solid gag.
Right, so I'm just watching the flow meter at the moment to just see how the air flow meter is giving the idea of what air essentially is leaving the train down the brake pipe to the wagons and things. So while all the freight cars and the rear loco are charging up their own service reservoirs and brakes and so forth, and the brake pipe itself is charging. Obviously, we're having to invest air in the rest of the train. So and you can see that here now as that flow rate comes down. When probably a good indicator that it's coming up on the rest of the train. So I'm going to release I'm going to put power on and make sure we're engine response, which you can see that pounds of effort is winding up. So we know the engine's responding. Don't release your brakes until you know your engine's responding, because otherwise you can be a rolling train.
So is there any particular reason why you can't see the brake pressures from the rear? Asks someone. Yeah, there you go. Someone asked it. I just read it, which is why I've said it.
I don't know the answer to that one. You should if there's a rear loco on the back.
Okay. Let's go through some quick tech. What sort of FPS are you getting at the moment? We'll do a second FPS check-in as we go through.
I've got
50
the
to
FPS
60.
down, so yeah, it's 59.60 at the moment.
Okay. We are playing on PC, which is why we've got the giant pink cursor. The giant pink cursor serves two purposes. Firstly, it allows you to see what Matt's pointing at, even if you're watching on a little screen. Secondly, it allows Matt to see what he's pointing at, because Matt's getting old, bless him.
Yeah, it's serious.
That's okay. I've got the chat window zoomed to 150% so I can read it. Okay, so we've got a fairly short consist for this one. Is this typical of what you're going to find on other timetable services, or does it get much longer?
The maximum, I think, the Skyhook was saying was 40-something.
Okay. And is that across the board, or does that differ by platform?
It's on all platforms. They've got the same length. There's one common timetable.
Have I got gameplay at the bottom of my... No, I haven't. Matt's captured the little preview window as well as me in the chat thing. Effectively, it's doing a little bit of video inception for you on screen. Apologies if it's distracting. Actually, you could just turn the cameras off, Matt, and that way we can look at the route. And you fixed it. Well, I see. What a celebrity.
We're going to turn the cameras off. There you go. Boom. Cameras are off. Yeah, it's Teams has got, obviously, my camera's in the bottom right of Sam's window, so. And you can't turn it off. Thanks, Teams.
Okay, good. Right, so how far are we going now?
So we are, we've just left Moab down here, and we will be going all the way up to the main line up here. So one of the things that, with the other previous streams, we kind of drove to, I don't know, there previously.
Right.
And when on the way southbound, we got to about there. So, we haven't gone to the airport, for example, and gone past these sidings. So I thought we should really show bits of the route we've not looked at so far.
Now, did Skyhook, if I'm not mistaken, they used a slightly different method to build the terrain than we've seen on other maps. What approach did they use?
So what you're seeing here isn't technically terrain in game terms. The terrain is relatively flat because it's quite low resolution. It's a higher resolution than TS1, but it's still, to achieve that level of detail, you can't use terrain. You've got to use 3D models. So what they've done is they've roughly sculpted the terrain, roughly where it would be, and then they have put all of these models from the Quixel Megascans pack. Actually, it's the Utah pack. And it was actually, these scans actually are from the area that's been modelled here, so it's really cool to see them being used in their home location. And making them UE4, well, they're already UE4 capable, they're actually free for all UE4 users because Epic published them. But actually making them to where they're game ready across all the platforms inside the train world, where clearly what we're interested in is lots of train physics, far more so than your average game would be.
So is this the kind of is this something that we're going to head towards for other routes as well, or is this a one-off because there was a suitable kind of texture map available, or however you wish to describe it, available for this particular locale?
I mean, there is an element of there's two things to that. One is that having worked with Skyhook, I mean, they did the majority of the work, but we have assisted along in the process. We've gone through this process of now bringing the Quixel Megascans in and using them, so we've got experience. And Quixel Megascans covers all sorts of things. So I know the team are keen to start looking at how we can do more with Quixel Megascans and bring them in. They're beautiful, high-quality assets. That cover all sorts of different things. So we want to see what we can do there. So as always, no promises how, when, how, and if, and anything else. But the aspiration is, hey, this works. We should look at it more because there's a great quality assets here. Why make them ourselves?
Absolutely.
So we definitely want to do that. But on the flip side of that, I mean, these assets are specifically for this route. So if you're going to use them somewhere else, you need to customize them so that you don't just build Utah in Wyoming or something. So
you couldn't transpose some of the work that's done here and make the Alps out of it, for example.
No,
it's a different kind of rock for starters.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's but if you've got something which looks vaguely similar, then you can customize it and benefit from it. But like any scenic asset, it's really about finding what the right set of assets are, and then if they're close, then you can just modify them to get them a bit closer to what you're looking for. So no, this was a really great opportunity to model, and we actually this was a route that we talked with Skyhook about making before really appreciating that the Quixel Megascans
That's
were
a view, that is, isn't it?
Amazing,
look at that.
The Quixel Megascans would actually solve this problem of how you get all this high detailed terrain in there. So it's a really nice that was available. That's not going to be available for every route, but they make a nice variety of more general rocks and so forth, as well as a bunch of other stuff. So, we definitely want to try and use more of the Quixel Megascans in what we're doing.
Ian's saying rocks, mountains, pretty similar. There are different kinds of rocks, and they break apart slightly differently. So a bit of sandstone that is trying to be granite, you're not going to get away with that. When are they going to let me drive this on the stream? No, they don't need to let me drive this on the stream. It's fine. Although I suspect I'm going to be on a freight mission before too long, so that can be fun. Okay, so are we maintaining this level of speed for pretty much the whole duration of the track, or is it variable?
It's variable, and we'll also be on different gradients. We're on a 1.2% climb at the moment, and I think, if I remember rightly, there's 3 climbs on this, so it's up, down, up, down, up, down, essentially. So it's not a flat route by any means, so we'll need to pay attention to it a bit, and watch for when we transition to a downhill, and then switch over into braking as we do that, and then similarly as we switch back into uphill again. So you've got to watch it. It's clearly it's not 300 kilometers an hour, but you've still got to pay attention.
So, I mean, as much as we're still investigating the technology to a degree, does it feel like this will be a quicker approach than what we've used historically, or is it too soon to say?
It's another tool in the toolbox. It's for when that tool is the right tool, it will be a faster way of doing it. But if you try and use a hammer to put in a screw, then it's possibly going to be make the job take longer than it would have done. If you find the right set of assets to doing what you're doing, then it'll be actually quite a big time save and big quality increase as well. It's not just about saving time; it's also about it's even if it took a little bit more time, if you're going to get this kind of a quality boost in what you're doing, it's worth spending that time on.
Is there a performance hit to doing it this way, or is performance about the same as we'd usually get?
These are really quite efficient assets, actually, and it's more as much about using them efficiently as it is about anything else. But no, the assets themselves, despite their high detail, are surprisingly efficient. So, and I know that Skyhook spent some time improving, cutting some of the detail out just to improve the performance across all platforms. Not that you'd notice, to be honest.
Very nice. Have we done some horn action yet? Because that's my next. That's my next line of inquiry.
Horn.
No one's asked for it yet. So we've had a few, and thank you, Conrail. Conrail has just said what many people have been saying already, which is it's the same AC 4400 horn we've been using for a while. What's the limit on us getting some fresh audio recordings for horns for new locos where we do have one already in existence?
So I think American freight locos have always been a real challenge because whereas quite often passenger operators, for example, we've been out and we've worked with Amtrak and Caltrain and MBTA, the freight operators have been fairly well a hard no to going out and doing reference trips and surveys and so forth, which has made it rather more challenging in just about every respect. So that makes life difficult. There are other avenues, and in fact, the sounds here came from a different source that was recorded. These are the AC 4400 sounds that came with Sampatch grade, and they were sourced from a company in the States that recorded them for model railway use. Although these are not the model railway processed versions, these are based on the original recordings they were able to do. But they made those recordings quite a long time ago, and probably due to mates access, it's something that's easy to access if you happen to be local. So it is an ongoing challenge that we are trying to improve upon, and as we get more products out, and as we get more operators in. Particularly as we do some really great stuff with Amtrak. We've done some great stuff with Caltrain, and it's then good to see other operators then say, well, how can we help? How can we help more? I mean, that's what happened with MBTA. They actually tweeted us and said, hey, it'd be fun to see our stuff in your game. And I think that was on the back of seeing some of the other, some of their other colleagues in other companies doing stuff in the game, such as Caltrain. So it's a longer process to get some of this stuff done, but on the basis that every contact we've made so far has been fairly well a hard no to going out and doing reference surveys. Yeah.
I mean, someone said, are there third parties that we could work with? We've had some sounds volunteered from the community actually, and while there are some pretty severe restrictions over what sound files we can use, so you can't just go and nick one off somebody's YouTube video, for example. You have to have an original recording for us to be able to make use of it. We're willing to work with absolutely anybody to try and bump the sounds up. But then, as much of that, the challenge there comes down to how they're then mixed. So this time around, we're using stuff that is already kind of tried and tested, but we are trying to enhance the way that we use sound as we move forward.
We are definitely looking at taking a hard look at sound. It's not delivering in all the ways that it could and should deliver, and it's difficult, but it is definitely something that we want to do more with. Totally see where everyone's coming from, and we're trying to do what we can there, working with the resources we can get hold of. It's I mean, sometimes we see we do get offered resources, but sometimes they come with quite a large price tag that makes it less feasible, or other restrictions that actually aren't compatible with what we need to do with them. So it's more often than not the black and white situation it looks like, unfortunately, and this is one of the challenges we have to work with.
How come we can use the mirrors on the SD40 but not on the AC4000?
So the mirrors on the SD40 are just a screen space reflection, so they're not actually mirrors. So it wasn't added to this one. In the very early days, the mirrors even on the SD40 and AC400, actually you could flip them out, but then we realised that because they were just screen space reflections, what looked like a really nice mirror when you're looking at it at an angle like this, because of how screen space reflections work, the minute you flip the mirror out, it stopped reflecting anything. So it's kind of pointless. And actually making a working reflective mirror has a surprising impact on frame rate for something which is possibly not worth that frame rate cost. So this is something we need to explore, more efficient ways of doing things like mirrors. And it's certainly on a list of things we want to look at. But we've got a long list of things we want to look at. So totally get what people are saying that they want the working mirrors, but that's the difference between the SD40 and this, is that this doesn't have the screen space reflection on it applied to it, whereas the SD40 did.
Right, FPS update, we're still doing 59, 60, 61 most of the time. You haven't got this frame locked, have you?
Yes, I think it is.
You have got it frame locked?
Yeah, I always frame lock at 60, I usually do. Where is it? Yeah, 62.
62.
I frame lock it because that then matches with VSync, and it also means that I get a nice even. If you allowed it to go infinite, I might see it wildly going 90, 60, 90, 60, and that's just a horrible experience. So I lock it at 60 because the VSync on this monitor is only 60.
Yeah. The Pierce asks whether we're thinking of supporting AMD FSR technology. We consider all kinds of technologies. So anything new that comes up, we'll give it a good look and see if it's a sensible thing for us to include. But wherever possible, any development work of that kind, we want to make sure that it can be used as widely as possible. And obviously, AMD has got a reasonably good saturation through the market, but then so does Nvidia. It's not an easy one to answer, but yeah, we look at just about everything that's available to us.
Yeah.
We could, Mike says, we could buy an actual horn from scrapyards or whatever and record it ourselves.
We've looked into that as well. We've looked into buying horns. So the way that if you look at American horns, and in fact most horns, but let's look at American horns in particular. There it is. You'll notice it's a 5 bell, what they call 5 bell. So it's got 5 of these on, 5 horns on it, and this is, I think, is a K5LA horn. And if you, or at least the audio is a K5LA, if you get the individual horns, one of the things we want to experiment with is recording the individual horns and then recombining all the different types of horns to recreate. Because you only need about 15 or 16 different bells to recreate almost every horn, or something like that. So it's one of the avenues of trying to record all of that stuff. But then we need to go and basically get in a field, because you really need to record stuff because they're loud. You need to be the right distance to get a horn recording sensibly. So I mean, I'm kind of reaching my limit of my knowledge of audio here, is where you need the audio engineer talking about this stuff. But I know he's explained some of the stuff that they want to try looking at, and with one of the things one of the angles on this is we've been looking at talking to someone about synthesizing the bells, because it's much easier to synthesize a single bell than to try and synthesize the whole of a K5LA horn. And if you synthesize the individual bells and then combine them in different ways, you should be able to create natural sounding horns more easily, and then there'd be a much wider variety available. So we've got a number of different aspects we're looking at, because we really want to solve this. At least the horn and the bell should be different and right, because they're really important.
There's a variety of good questions going on here this evening. Liam says, is there any way to turn the bell off if you're playing on controller?
No, there isn't a control button for it. You will need to press the button.
Okay, right. that's my preferred approach anyway. But I understand that some people prefer to stick to the controller. Simon asks whether you can stream train sims on a mobile phone. It depends on your streaming technology. There are some that will allow you to stream just about anything on anything, particularly the home network based ones. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
So I played with ShadowTech and I played with xCloud, and both worked very well.
Okay, there you go. It really comes down to how you get on with controlling it while playing on your mobile phone. But yeah, streaming should be viable. It just depends on the technology you're using. Mr. J&B saying that the horn would probably sound different, even if we were to acquire one, if you're sounding it in your own home or in the garden, rather than putting it on a moving loco.
Yep.
But the sound moving, that's something that we can replicate, or we can reproduce via the movement in game. What you want is the expansive space that you get while out in the Great American Open, the plains, for example, or how it would sound if you were in a built-up area. But you can do reverberation and all manner of other effects can be simulated really quite effectively these days. So it's all a question of getting that spot-on original recording, and then ideally multiple variations thereof, so that you don't hear the exact same switch on, switch off sound at the start and beginning of every horn. If we're in a dream world.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the nice things about finding a solution involving synthesis, which I know it makes everyone, when you hear synthesis, kind of like, it's not a recording of the real thing. But a recording of the real thing will only ever be that one thing. Whereas if you can actually nail the problem of synthesis, which is the ultimate solution, you can then programmatically and dynamically vary it. You could make it to where one of the horns on one of the locos is a little bit not, the air's not flowing quite well through it, and that will create a unique sound on that loco. And I know that when Ed Fisk set up the Class 20, he made it so that there was a small percentage that one of the two horns on a Class 20 became faulty and you sounded different. And I've seen so many people saying that is great, that is really cool. Well, if you had synthesis working well, then you can actually do that much more dynamically. So that's kind of like, I really want to prove whether synthesis can or cannot solve this problem. I'm not going to presuppose it will solve it. We need to find out and evaluate it. But if we can, it's quite exciting what the potential of it is.
Yeah.
So we're downhill now. We're on the dynamic brakes.
Can we see if we can get this train on Sandpatch grade?
We'll have a look. I know I've seen the SD40 on Sandpatch grade as an AI train, but I've not seen this one, so we'll have a look later.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that we can put onto to Adam's list for when he next swings past Sandpatch, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't, then it will be down to updating the substitution settings on that route. So you can only go so far with what you expect to work or not work before the actual other stock is available. So sometimes as new stock becomes available, you do need to just revisit the way that it's been set up.
Len's saying we could set out to sea in my yacht and record the horns. I think that's a brilliant idea. The only thing missing from the picture at the moment is, well, the horns and the yacht. Other than that, I think it's a flawless idea. Have we got any stops along the way? Because we've got some please poke at some of the wagons requests.
Poke at some of the wagons, sorry?
No, we want to see how you open the roof of a sealed coal hopper, for example.
when we find some wagons, we'll stop and we'll have a look. So there's these ones. There's not really much you can do with these. These are the same wagons that were in Peninsula Corridor, the 2-way hoppers.
Yeah. Are they climbable?
All ladders are climbable. Yeah, all these ladders will be climbable.
Marvellous.
Back on the uphill again now.
Liam says, would Adam's team do the same thing with Colmarken, for example, regarding substitution? Yeah, it falls under their remit. So the idea is that every time the preservation crew visits a route, they can evaluate how much time they have to work on it, which is typically a month, and what there is to add to it, to beef it up, to take it further.
I know one of Adam's things that he likes doing just because he enjoys it. Adam likes service mode as much as I do, from a dev perspective, and I know he's been spending quite a lot of time on the service modes. He's been going through them. Hence why Rapid Transit got a brand new one.
Is the graffiti randomised on the wagons?
Same as it was in Peninsula Corridor, yeah. Yeah, it applies the graffiti decals randomly. I think there's 2 or 3 different decals, and it chooses nothing or one of those randomly.
Yeah. Are Union Pacific very friendly with licensing comparing to other big licenses? We've worked with Union Pacific for ages, and they're always happy to work with us. So I wouldn't say that they were any more or less difficult, only that we've already got an agreement with them in place, and that makes life a bit easier.
Yeah.
Is that a reasonable assessment?
Yeah, I mean, we don't get access or anything like that, but they give us great feedback on when we send the implementations off for review. They give us good feedback, and I know that marketing sides of things, we work really well with Union Pacific. So they're a great friend to Train Sim World. But yeah, it's but if what you're looking for is like the likes of, can we go to a Union Pacific yard and climb on their trains, then no. To date, I think that's a challenge for all operators, possibly down to regulations for big freight locos. I don't know.
Jorgen's asking, when will we fix the issue of railway crossings being permanently closed? We already are doing. So as the preservation crew visits a new route, dynamic crossings are being put back in place again. So
possibly that might be related to the fact that they are locked down on this route.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happened was that this route needs a different type of crossing. This is one of those annoying technical weirdnesses. There's just like, but we've done level crossings. What do you mean we got the wrong level crossings? And that's what's happened here. This route because this route is largely unsignalled, and previously all of our level crossings are based on signals, as in when you authorise a route from signal A to signal B, if there's a level crossing in the way, it brings the level crossing down before it lets the signal go. Well, there are no signals on this part of the route, which means the level crossings don't work. So they developed some new tech to allow level crossings to work without necessarily requiring the signals there. And at the 11th hour it turned out that wasn't working very well. So they have a good idea what the problem is now, and they are looking at getting a fix in for that. But at the moment they are all in a down state.
Right. But yeah, that is something that we will fix, because we've got something we've got a system available to make differences there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and certainly Adam. One of the things Adam's team has been doing is on the older stuff, looking at bringing that across. Totally.
Has this route? This is a decent question from Matan. Has this route already been built on both the current and future UE version? What considerations do we have to take in place? So, is this one that is going to have to be recooked, as it were?
Everything will be. So UE5, we don't know what will happen with UE5 yet. It's too far.
I'm not even on UE5. I'm on 426.
Oh yeah, This has already been recooked for 426.
Right.
All of the routes, everything currently in 423 has already been recooked a minimum of twice, because it has to be recooked when we make updates to it. It has to get recooked again.
I made up recooked as a piece of technical terminology, and you now seem to be running with it.
It's actually a proper technical terminology. Yes, it's basically when you have all of the assets in source form, we don't deliver source form assets. It goes through a process which Unreal calls cooking, which then comes out with a pack file at the end of it, which has got all of the optimized assets ready to go out with it. So all of the routes are already recooked for 426 and are going through. They've already been through quite extensive testing and are continuing to do so.
Mr. J&B's observing that there is still some tiling going on there. Yeah, I mean, well, everything is going to be built out of tiles to a greater or lesser extent. It just comes down to how well they're then masked. And there will be incidences. I mean, the only way to get around that is by using much, much larger textures. And even then, they'll still tile. Unless you're using absolutely mega sized textures going on. So sometimes you'll spot it, sometimes you won't, and hopefully the times where it is visible, it isn't too distracting. Only me's asking whether UE5 is in the works. It's being poked around.
No one's actively using it. Everyone's busy. Yeah. And UE5 is early access. It's going to be probably completely different by the time it launches. We know that from our experience dealing with UE4, that leave it till it's out. Just don't waste your time, because there's nothing really to learn. Obviously, the team at a personal level are paying a lot of attention to it because they're fascinated by it. They're really excited by what they're going to be able to do with it, and what it can do. And a lot of the team, might do their own projects in their own time. So I know some people are playing around with UE5. So as and when it's the right time to go further with it, then the team will probably come at it already with a fair bit of knowledge. But no, it's too early at the moment. It's just something to monitor and observe.
Okay. And not to mention the fact that we will not be the first game to release on Unreal Engine 5. No. We just won't. But we like to use good technology, but we're not the ones to jump on it first. So until you see someone else go on it, you definitely won't see us come out.
No. It'll be they talk about a migration path from 420, the latest 4.2 version up to UE5, but it's taken, I would say, a good 6 months of development to get from 423 to 426. You've got to imagine that for Unreal 5 is not going to be a small jump. So when they talk about migration paths, don't read too much into that. That might not apply to us. Because there's migration paths between 23, 24, 25 and so forth, but the problem, one of the opportunities, problems, challenges, whatever flavour of word of the month you want to use, is we've made so many changes to Unreal's engine to make it work well for a train simulator, and we've got to bring all of that stuff with us across, which gets more and more challenging essentially. So yes, super hyped by UE5, don't get me wrong, super hyped, it's amazing, but we do need to have our realistic hats on. Back on another rise again now. We've been up and down I think a couple of times so far. I keep missing it and ending up going too fast down the hills, but
this route comes with achievements, surely?
Yes, it does.
Yep. Robert, they're definitely there. If you can't find them on Xbox, maybe some further poking is required. I mean, L is confirming there are indeed Xbox achievements. Could we see more freight car types soon? And my follow-up question, that was Kyle asking that, my follow-up question is, are we purposefully heading towards routes that use similar freight cars to ones that we've deployed in the past?
Not really, no. We need to think about the entire package whenever we come up with a route. So coming up with a route which would require us to make 5 completely brand new wagon types makes that route a challenge. Or similarly, we don't really want to. We always want to try and introduce something new where we can, and bring something new into a pack rather than just taking what was gone on before. But we can't always just do lots. So we're not purposefully choosing routes which mean we don't have to make new wagons. No, that's not right at all. But we do have to be careful. The whole package needs to be considered. What locos, what wagons, because sometimes we'd rather have more time spent on the locos than the wagons. Locos and wagons are all built by the same team, so more wagons would mean less work time spent available for the trains. And these trains do take quite a lot of resource to make. Wagons don't take very much to make, but they're also not free. There's a lot more work goes into a wagon than a train sim 1 wagon, for example. Because there's more interactivity on it. It's got full simulation running on it, which isn't really there on TS1. So yeah, there's a lot more goes into a wagon. But no, we want to try and introduce new wagon types as much as we can. Totally.
Presumably, building a freight wagon isn't quite as labour intensive as building a passenger car.
Oh, it's much less so. Yeah, wagons are much easier than passenger cars.
They've got seats inside for starters.
Passenger cars these days on TSW, passenger cars are not far off the complexity and budget of a loco, because of how much there is going on. There's a lot of detail inside a passenger car that needs to be taken into account. It's got that entire big interior model, and they've got usually a fair few interactives in them. Take a look at the Dostos with the opening guards panel and lighting controls and so forth. So while you haven't got obviously the complexity of Simulgraph and quite as many controls to animate, from a 3D art perspective, the artists probably spend as much time on a coach as they do as a loco.
Yeah, we've discussed that previously, haven't we? There is a heck of a lot that goes into making a passenger coach.
Yes, which on the one hand I'm really proud of, because it's the coaches are not just the bit behind the train, the wagons are not just the bit behind the train, they're an integral part of the whole train, and I really enjoy going and exploring the coaches. It's this whole other bit that you can go and have a look at and sit down on and enjoy that you couldn't previously. So it is good, but that comes at a cost. It takes time to make it.
Turner's going for some clarification on UE5. So are we saying that we'll wait until other developers have released something before going for UE5? Maybe not. We haven't got a UE5 plan that is in any way, shape or form being worked on. It's the point I was endeavouring to make, albeit clumsily, was that we are very unlikely to be the first developer to release something on with UE5. Turn the HUD off. Come on, if we're going to enjoy the view, let's really soak it in.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's why I shut up for once. Sometimes you've just got to enjoy the ambience of it all. Are there any signals at all on this route? And this ties to another question that came up earlier, was are we going to pass any other services, or is it single track pretty much the whole way?
Single track on this branch line.
Right.
So you can see there are signals out here on the main line, but the branch line is single track, one train in operation. So there's no need for signals on it.
Yeah. As much as we'd love to talk about Unreal Engine all evening, let's save that for a roadmap stream where we talk about the future a little bit more. We're on a Cane Creek hook today because it's the Cane Creek launch, and both Matt and myself are prone to getting dragged onto other topics than the one we're supposed to be talking about. And JD will scowl at me, and he doesn't scowl not very often.
The mile counter, yes, you can see actually for the airport it's just up here. You can see that coming up ahead. We'll be getting there. So yeah, you should be able to use distance No, distance setup. So I'm trying to remember how to use this now. So if I zero the distance and let's count up from 0. Yeah, and exit, and then distance start.
Yeah.
If I now go into distance setup, no, I made this work. I made this work. Distance counting in progress. Cannot modify setup.
You can't modify the preset. You know that. It's yelling at you like you're some kind of fool. What are you thinking? Trying to modify the preset? Now, for those of us who don't know what you're doing, what are you doing?
I'm trying to play with this distance setup thing to see if I can work out.
What does it do? What's it for?
So it's for measuring. It's literally for measuring distance. So how far have I travelled, essentially? So you could use this for countdown from preset. Says type a number in here, like 1,000 feet, and then you could say, right, count down from that, and then it'll sit there and it'll count down until it gets to 0. And then you know,
which is useful if you're taking your train past a junction, for
or something like that. Or there's the count up, where you just want to know how far am I from something, which you can kind of use for the same thing. So, but that's why you can count up from 0 and count down from preset, and you can type a preset. What I am failing to understand exactly how I get that. There is the measured mile as well, where you can do that, and then when you press stop, it says there you go. Because I cheated and I stopped it before an actual mile, it reckoned I was doing 990 miles an hour, so good me. Result. Exactly. So, and then you've got the speed control down here for if you're doing loading and unloading, so that you can have basically it's like cruise control but for up to about 3 miles an hour. Oh, it's on the top of the IFD. There you go. 241. There we go. So if I distance start, there you go. Look, it's counting down.
Well, okay. That's a nice feature.
So if I zero the distance, count it from 0, exit, and then distance start, there you go. So
Barbecue's asking, is this out for console yet? It should be out everywhere by now.
Yeah.
Yes. The latest it comes out on launch day is around 8 AM PST. So we're past that now, so yeah, you should be out and about. So yes, it's available everywhere on everything that it's usually available for. It's not out anywhere on the things it's not usually available for. Will it look closer to this on the Series X when the standalone version comes out? Again, that's one to cover more in the roadmap, but my understanding from what I've seen so far is that there's going to be very little difference between PC and what should be called current gen consoles. See, Matt's not even disagreeing, so I'm obviously right.
I'm not saying anything at the moment.
Is there a reason that we don't release on Steam at midnight rather than waiting till 6 BST? That's so that we can get it set up. We hand over, so the PlayStation and... Do Xbox release at midnight as well? I don't know, but I know PlayStation definitely does.
Yeah, Xbox too.
And the reason that they do is that we hand off control to PlayStation and Xbox, at which point they have the button. They are the ones deploy the button, and their store updates go live on a local basis around the world as that locality passes midnight. Whereas Steam, we have the button, so we take the day to get set up to make sure there's not a problem on something else. The team in charge of the retail side of things make sure there's no problems, and then we aim to go live at a consistent time. Every time, which I think is around 4-5 p.m. UTC.
So we're just next to this is the airport, just up here. This concrete structure here is the runway.
And is there a reason that we always release on a Thursday? Tradition. Well, okay. So firstly, let's rule out the weekends, you don't release at a weekend, obviously. You don't release on Friday. No, that's a terrible idea. Never release anything on a Friday, because if you do, there's no one around to fix it. That's just a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Similarly, Mondays, you don't release on a Monday. Come on, behave. So that leaves you Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And by releasing on a Thursday, it means you have the maximum number of working days before release that eliminates Friday and still allows you to get it out. So we get a 3 or 4 working day head start to make sure that everything goes according to plan.
Yep, that's historically why we've always released on Thursday. Yeah, exactly that.
Of course, yeah. Simulator driver is pointing out that he lives in the future, and therefore I can assume that probably an Aussie, but possibly a Kiwi. Or could be in Hong Kong. You never know. But I would assume a Kiwi or Aussie there. And yes, it's already tomorrow as far as we're concerned for them. But that's the luxury of living at zero meridian. Is it means that some people are a half a day or more ahead, and others are half a day or more behind. That's true. Strike Eagle, yes, you're absolutely right. Games used to release in North America on Tuesdays and in Europe on Thursdays, and that's when it was the boxed versions, where there was no digital anything, and so you'd always feel like a lesser city, and that's if they released in the same week. It used to be months in between a US and a European release.
It did, yeah.
Months.
Air traffic control tower there in the background.
Is there any air traffic going on, or is that disused?
I haven't
as far
seen
as
any. I think it's still an active airfield. So on one of the previous streams, someone called out what it was. I can't remember now, but I believe it's still an active airfield.
Why are the quality of TSW2 Clinchfield and TS Clinchfield so different on the model quality on TSW2 is way better than TS? Why is this? I'm going to say Brandon, if I don't understand your question correctly, please feel free to rephrase it, but I assume you're asking why does TSW2 look better than Train Simulator? Because the engine brings an awful lot more horsepower to the party in a developmental sense, so we can do a heck of a lot more with it.
That's basically it. We've got more. We can do more detailed models, more functional models, better textures. It's also got the material system, which means we can make surfaces look like they're metallic or plastic or glass, which you can't really do. There's some preset materials inside TS1, but it's a limited subset, whereas we've got total flexibility in UE4. But yeah, Canyonlands Field Airport. There you go. Thank you, Salata.
I mean, don't forget that the engine that underpins Train Simulator is over 10 years old, and the main reason that Train Sim keeps on trucking, keeps on rolling. There you go. That's more appropriate. Is that people have built up quite a substantial collection, and also people have figured out an awful lot of tricks that they can do to improve the looks of it. So it's a really good way of keeping a collection that you've already got alive and kicking. And plus, there's people whose hobby, as far as Train Simulator is concerned, is about hacking Train Simulator around, modding it, increasing the number of routes, building stuff that they love. So we're supporting that as best we can for as long as we can. Now, we didn't release. This is a Clinchfield question. So Clinchfield on Train Simulator came out about 9 months? No, maybe a year before it came out on Train Sim World, and that's a pandemic reason, unfortunately, because we were limited in what we could research. We'd got relatively fresh research done for Clinchfield for Train Simulator, so we did it again for Train Sim World.
But we did take the opportunity to listen to some of the feedback and modelled a slightly different model or extent, so we didn't do exactly the same route. It did get the extra. It didn't go as far south. It didn't go to St Paul, but it did include all the branch lines. So we were able to bring that in as well.
How long is it going to take for third-party content creators to make their own creations? They can do it right now. Get in touch with our third-party team. We are keen to work with external studios as soon as possible. Now, what I suspect you mean there, Elijah, is how soon before we hand over tools that will allow end users and hobbyist dabblers to monkey around with Train Sim World. The answer to which is we have no plans to do so at the current time. We've covered this relatively extensively, but if you haven't caught it, then do hit me up via the forums, and I'll be more than happy to give you the full explanation. Gordon's requested another horn flyby when we've got another scenic opportunity.
I'll take this shot even though it's quite draining.
I see what you did there. And I mean, there's a reason I do the jokes. Okay, questions that have come up during the period of silence there. We've got, can we use these hoppers on Oakville?
We don't have a way of explicitly allowing you to choose which hoppers and wagons you want to use in particular things. I seem to recall that Peninsula Corridors 2-bay hoppers will sub in. I have no idea if these ones will. They may do because they are basically Peninsula Corridors 2-bay hoppers, but I don't know that for sure. I've not looked at it myself.
That's a good point, actually, because obviously this route was developed by Skyhook. Now, when it comes to crossing the streams between a third-party route and all of the other routes that are available, what are the rules on that? Do you know?
How do you mean crossing the streams?
Well, okay, good. So if a third party knocks out a route, can we nick their stuff and use it on the other routes that are available?
Well, substitution may or may not allow things to just naturally appear, the same as it does.
Yeah.
In terms of nicking their stuff, obviously we'd have a conversation with them.
I word it in a slightly casual fashion. I'm sure it would be a slightly more formalised arrangement than that.
But no, I mean, certainly at this point in time, third-party developers are working inside our repository. And that therefore, if there's an arrangement and they're happy for us to use their stuff, then absolutely that can happen. Same as they use our stuff.
No, I was going to say it goes two ways.
Yeah, it goes. And actually, we're quite keen when we work with developers for them to, look at our library and take stuff. This is the same with TS1 that we worked with because I used to be the head of third-party development, and I worked extensively with third-party developers saying, how can we help? We've got a huge asset library here. What can we do to make it easier? And the same is true here.
Yeah. Here we go. So they are. That's the answer to that question. Then the BNSF question came up again. It's been a while since we had the BNSF question. BNSF is a very complicated license to work with because it is owned by a multitude of different corporate entities around the world. So in a train concept, or a rail setting, it is owned exclusively by an American entity. But that license that if they were to give us a license, it wouldn't necessarily cover us for use elsewhere. It is fearsomely complicated, and we've just never been able to get anywhere with it, unfortunately.
It's very, very difficult. I mean, we have a license with them.
It's nobody's fault. It's just a question of how that that license, that mark, how that is commercially owned.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very challenging. And it's challenging in one of those ways that it makes you kind of frustrated because of typical legal reasons, but they're there for a reason, so we have to abide by them.
If the entire world operated under communism, we wouldn't have this problem, but it doesn't, and therefore we do. That's not me advocating communism, you understand, but if it was all state-owned, it would be far easier, but then of course none of us would be being paid, so I mean, that's slightly different, isn't it? I may have gone a little bit off topic. Thank you, Silent Assassin. I did mean to ask your question as well. The free camera, it does move further out on PC than it does on console.
Well, see, the three camera is what you get when you head out. You know, when you press the right and you click the right stick, you get the 3 camera, which is this one that follows the train. Yeah, and that is limited to this kind of range. Relatively close. You can go a bit further away from it that way, but it's this corridor here. When I go a bit further away, I'm pressing number 8, and I'm using the static camera, which is not following the train. Now that has an additional range, which there you go. We found the outside range of the number 8 camera, where there's an additional barrier placed to stop the 8 camera leaving the modelled area. Or at least the less detailed modelled area. Now, if you've got a console and a keyboard, you can press the number 8 key, and you can access that. But that's why I'm getting further away.
If you haven't got a keyboard on your part of the reason to play on a console is that you've got a joypad and it does everything.
Well, what we should do, Sam, is we should improve the controls, the camera controls.
I think you're absolutely right, Matt. Yeah. I think that's a brilliant idea, and we should jump straight on it.
We should jump straight on it and make sure that's part of Rush Hour, shouldn't we?
I think we should. I think that's a great idea, and we should talk about that in considerable depth as we get close to the release of Rush Hour.
We absolutely should.
Totally. In other words, this is something we're addressing for Rush Hour.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd say is that it doesn't matter how far out the camera lets you go, it's never as far as you want. You always want to go further than it lets you. Or I do anyway, but then I'm quite often just mucking about. Lyric of 300 said, will there be more passenger routes? Yes. Yes. We've got another passenger route coming in Rush Hour. Boston Providence in the Northeast Corridor. You've got coming for Rush Hour, which is out later this year. And then after that, will there be more passenger routes after that? Yeah. And after that, oh yeah. And after we've done those ones, yeah, there'll be more after that as well. What about more freight routes after that? Yeah, we'll have more freight routes too. In terms of will there be more passenger and more freight routes? Yes.
Always
yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes, there will always be more coming. Until such a time as we're not available to answer those questions because we're elsewhere. Yes. There was a rail driver question. Was there a rail driver question? What console players need is a rail driver for PlayStation or Xbox. Yeah, that's one to talk to them about. The hardware manufacturers, because they'd be the ones who'd need to get the drivers working with the consoles and get it certified by, or whatever hoops they'd have to go through to get Sony and Microsoft to play ball. That's not one we can control.
The hoops are extensive, I believe, for custom hardware.
I don't doubt it.
But no, it's if they're able to get that down there, then we can have that conversation.
Will we ever see Norfolk Southern? Have we got a relationship with Norfolk Southern at the moment?
Yeah.
So it's certainly possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clinchfield's Norfolk Southern. No, it's not.
No, isn't the CSX?
No, that's right. Yeah, sorry. No, the reason I was thinking it was Clinchfield. No, not Clinchfield. Sorry, Oakville.
Oakville's Canadian National.
No, I know it is, but the colour scheme's very similar because it's dark. Look, in my head it makes sense. It's because I know what the colour scheme is, and it makes sense to me. I'll shut up though, because obviously I know nothing. Yeah, we have got a relationship with Norfolk Southern, but we haven't made anything of theirs yet.
Not for TSW. There's tons of their stuff in TS1, and the license does include TSW. So it's certainly something that I'd certainly would love to do. I love Norfolk Southern. The black train with a horse is it's such a striking livery. So
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Someone said, will we make longer routes, particularly for high speed? The route length question always comes down to something relatively straightforward, which is we try and ensure that the route that we make has a suitable amount of gameplay, so interactive pieces for you to enjoy. So yeah, obviously we'd love to do longer routes, and there's no technical reason stopping us from doing so. We give each route a certain amount of time to be developed, and then a little bit of extra time if it needs a bit of extra time, and that's that. And so as we get more proficient at route building, we'll be able to do more within that set period of time, and therefore routes will get longer. But we're not there yet.
We're also developing tools to help assist with the building of routes, which are fairly simplistic at the moment, but if you go and have a look at some of the articles that have been put out by the Dovetail Live on rush hour, there's an article on Boston, and it includes some scenery, some shots of something. So for example, the automatic terrain texturing that the auto system is doing, that's about all it's doing at the moment, to be honest, but it does make a difference. So as we extend that tool set, that makes it more reasonable to build. Because one of the thing is, what you want to do is spend all your time in this bit of the route, this bit here, because fundamentally that's what you're spending a lot of your time looking at. So that should look, the best. What you actually do is spend all your time over here, and over here, and trying to build that corridor out, so it doesn't feel like you're in a corridor of trees, but actually you've got this wide range of scenery, and it just takes up so much time, whereas the importance of the scenery over here is far lower than the importance of the scenery here. And so what you want to do is focus the team spending time on that, and try and get the rest of it done to the point that it just needs a bit of touching up. Now that's the goal. We're not there yet, but and once you start getting to that level, then the size of the routes that you can make just start going up.
Epsilon's saying, is this the speed limit for the most part? Is that so? We're on a branch at the moment, and this is pretty much the speed limit on the branch. But when we merge up with the main line,
it goes up to about 50.
Goes up to about 50.
Yeah.
So it really depends which section of the track you're operating on. But here, for example, we've got a nice long stretch of 25.
Yeah, some bits are slightly lower at 20 at the bottom end, where it's actually a lot more wiggly. So this area here, it's slower. But you're also on the edge of the cliffs, essentially. This section here is the sort of 25, and then this section along the top here is more like about 50.
Brandon's asking, are we ever going to see some sort of consist builder like we've got in Train Simulator? That's one on our list, as probably as an evolution of scenario planning, or an extension thereof. So being able to knock your own consist together, that would be great fun, wouldn't it? So it's definitely on our list, but we don't have a time frame for it. What I would typically say at this point is things like that will add to the roadmap, so you can see that we're actively working on it. And until you see it there, it's not happening, which is a kind of a blunt way to do it. But at least that way you know what is and is not under construction or in development. Ian says, rush hour long-term goal to have 50 or 60 mile routes. Nope, there is no limit. We will do a 2-mile route if those 2 miles are the most fun you've ever had in a train simulator. Equally, we will do 1,000 miles if we can get 1,000 miles done within the time frame that development has available to it.
And if it makes sense to make 1,000 miles that you would actually enjoy and people would run on.
There you go. 1,000 miles in a straight line just for the sake of doing it with nothing but a green box around the outside of it, it's probably not going to be that much fun. And arguably, it's not going to be great for sales either. But that's what it comes down to. Is what we want to do is make sure that what we make is going to be fun to play. It offers the kind of experience that someone who wants that route is likely to enjoy. Why did we lose the external cameras when any part of the train is in the tunnel? We felt it was immersion braking.
The key thing there was, the key driver for it was Bakerloo. Because there's no room for the camera in the tunnel. All that happens is that the camera just gets stuck, bouncing all over the place, particularly if the tree is in, and it's just a horrible experience. So we locked it. Unfortunately, the unintentional side effect was it locked it everywhere.
Yeah.
So there is the tunnel cam should be returning. In fact, with one of the Clinchfield streams, you could see that the tunnel cam was working fine, but unfortunately that then didn't make it when the Clinchfield came out, and the reason for that was that in late testing it was identified that the Bakerloo line had been affected by that change, and so I believe the work has been done now to rectify that. But that's kind of, so yeah, we totally get it, completely agree with you.
It was hellish on Clinchfield because there's so many little tunnels in there. And you'd be quite happily watching your train go past, and then the front end would obviously enter a tunnel. It would snap the camera back in, and you go, I was enjoying that. And that was a nice view.
And you'd be stuck in that tunnel then for miles, because by the time the back end came out of one tunnel, you were back in another tunnel somewhere on the train. So yeah, totally. I believe there's a fix for that one. If not completely fixed yet, it's well on the way. So because everybody in the team hated that. Everybody on the team hated that.
Kyle asks, is multiplayer something coming to Train Sim World? It's not on the roadmap, Kyle, but Matt and I have numerous conversations on the topic on a regular basis because we both want it, but there's nothing actively in development. You know what? I'd love to go off on a side conversation now about potential multiplayer ideas, but we're not allowed to because we're talking about Cane Creek. Or you are. I'm doing a really poor job at talking about Cane Creek. Tripag is saying rather than the kilometre distance, it is better to sound like the duration of a service. 2 hours seems to be a good maximum duration, but you see, 2 hours on this train is not going to take you very far. I mean, 2 hours going up this branch line, you'd only be 40 miles up the line, whereas 2 hours on an ICE 3M and you'd be quite a long way further than that. So it's it comes down to, yes, it would be kilometres as well, but that's by the by. The point is that it's about the quality of what goes on during that distance, during the distance that you're covering, not the quantity of distance that you cover.
And actually, I mean, the point about it being about time of gameplay is actually fairly spot on. I mean, it's actually that the amount of time someone wants to sit down and play actually is more like 45 minutes to an hour, nearing more towards the 45 minutes. That's one of the factors that's taken into account.
Yeah, it was always 25 minutes was the scenario length that was played more than any other, and that's across every route. The 25-minute scenarios were the most popular ones.
Yeah, because they don't require a huge amount of commitment. You can go in, you can go out, and then you can pick your next thing.
Well, also, I think it's probably one that people would gravitate towards first, right? As if you picked it up, you haven't got a lot of time, I want to just dip in, let's nail one, and then we'll come back and play a bit more a bit later on. I mean, certainly I always used to go for a 20-minute first. Timothy, you're saying console, question mark. What? You need more words in your question. More words in your question. Is this on console? Yes. It is available right now on PlayStation and Xbox. If your question is, are we playing on console right now? The answer is no. We're on PC at the moment. But we have done other previews on console, so you can go and see what it looks like on that. Those are the two questions I'm assuming you're asking. One of those two.
Yeah, the first preview stream was on PS4 Pro.
Will Cane Creek have any kind of loco add-on? Don't know. It's not on the roadmap. Yeah, I mean, typically we'll add locos to routes if that route is particularly popular. It will certainly. The more people pick up a route, the more likely we are going to be motivated to stick out extras for that route. I mean that's really all there is to say on it. But no, we haven't got any plans for anything else on Cane Creek at the moment. It's too soon to say.
Yeah, I know Skyhook haven't announced anything on this island. It's their first route. I mean, it's worth actually. We haven't really made enough of this. This is not a Dovetail route. This is a Skyhook Games route. This route is made by third-party developers. It's Skyhook's first route. It's not their first time working with Train Sim World. They've been working with us pretty much since day one.
They do a lot of bits and pieces for us here and there, which is why it's how they've been able to build up their kind of level of expertise.
Yeah, I mean, they've helped with making 3D models for trains. I think they did the Class 66, for example, on Great Western, just to give you an idea of how far back it goes. They've also helped with making scenery on 2 or 3 routes. They took on some of the scenery work and building 3D assets to support. So this is, Skyhook are, they're pretty much veterans actually, even though this is their first route. They've actually done an awful lot of work with Train Sim World. So I'm, chuffed to bits, if you'll pardon the expression, to see Skyhook actually delivering their own third-party product now and building up a lot of experience. And I know when we talked to Sean on the first stream, he said the team were really hyped, that they'd learned a lot, and to see what they could do next.
The grass looks nice. I guess Skyhook had lots of practice for their new lawnmower simulator. Very good. That's a nice question. Nick asks, is playing this still a form of escapism for you, or because you've worked on it for so long and you're so in bed with it, I guess, it's the sweetness of escapism has maybe lost out a little?
Yes and no. If it's something recently released, then in the back of my mind I'm looking for problems. If it's something that's been released further into the past, then I'm sit back and I am enjoying it. It's so fundamentally.
What's the why that difference?
Just because it's still on my mind, I think. It's just like, you spin up so much in what you're doing in looking at the stuff, and that slows down over time, and you can kind of put it down, and there's other stuff that I'm focusing on, which means, and this stuff is further away from current, so mentally you get disconnected from the development side of it. Now I'm a player of it. It's switching between developer and player is, I find, very difficult. But it's that, I think over time you get that separation, and it's not that much time. When I say old, I mean more than 1 or 2 products old, really. So I still spend quite a bit of time just sitting back chilling on the game, because I've always loved it. Louis loved train sims, bluntly, this is my favourite train sim. So it's still a form of escapism, totally.
Simon's pushing off. Thank you, Simon. Thank you for watching. Raphael earlier said that he had some issues with the console porting that had gone on this one. Raphael, give us a full list of problems that you've got. Go and stick them on the forums or send it to the support team so that we can investigate further. We're always keen to get your feedback, even if it's negative. Just saying like, "Oh, I'll fix it, it's all horrible," doesn't help us. Let us know what's horrible and what needs fixing in your opinion. And I mean, obviously it's no guarantee that we'll make any changes, but it is only from feedback that we're able to decide what fixes are the most important. Are we planning to create any routes in different countries like Spain or Italy? We are open to building stuff in other routes, in other countries, I should say. The only challenge there is that we want to be relatively certain that there are multiple routes that we could build that will be popular. There is a non-small amount of work to be done in creating for a new country. It takes quite a lot of effort to get even things like signalling and track ballast and and overhead lines and so forth, as well as the local scenery, to make something convincing for that country. We want to make sure that that's close to being right. And if we're going to invest all of that time in one route, then we want to try and make sure that we can then use all of that material and all of that learning again. I mean, that's before you consider the trains and so forth that are running on it. Is that a never? No, it's not a never. Is that a definitely? No, it's not a definitely either. So nothing is ruled out. Let's put it that way. Silent Assassin is asking whether the gauge lights work.
I don't think there's any gauge lights to light up, because it's all on the computer screens. This question came up, I know, when we were developing it, because there's a gauge lights on and an off, but I don't think there's anything to light up.
Yes.
So,
for the SD40. Oh, okay. Well, we don't know. We're not looking at the SD40 at the moment.
We'll put a quick look at the SD40 in a minute.
Yeah, okay. All right, we'll check it.
We're not far off Brent and Brendel now.
We'll check it, and if Matt goes, I shouldn't be doing that, then you'll know that Matt's seen it. That's always a good thing. Yeah. That was a question that I missed. UK Kid Bro would love to see an Indian route. I'd love to see an Indian route, mostly for the scenery. Having passengers riding on following the cliche of riding all over the train. I think that would be spectacular, but that's not something we've done before, is it? So we'd have to develop a whole bunch of new stuff to do that one. Traffic audio is one that really sticks out. It's way too loud. I haven't got the audio here.
I've seen that comment from a couple of people. So I'm going to talk to the team tomorrow and see whether there's something wrong with the mixing on the with the way it's crossed over to PlayStation, perhaps.
Yeah.
So it's not something I've noticed on the run here, but no, I have seen the comment.
Okay, right, moving on. Wilf asks, are we getting a new questionnaire soon? Yes, soon. You're getting a new survey pretty soon, which will give you your opportunity to voice your opinion on the future of Train Sim World.
Use it.
And it's a beefy one, a beefy survey, this one. I try and keep them short, but people keep piling extra questions onto me that I then have to try and make work in a sensible fashion. Beg your pardon? Sorry?
Me.
You actually aren't the worst offender.
No, really?
No, you'll usually chip in one or two extras to go into a question that I've already asked. But no, there are nameless others who ask me to put other questions on there.
But when the survey comes out, folks, use the survey. Please do.
That is your best opportunity to tell us what you want, because I summarise the whole thing, and anything that you've written in there is I will read every single word, and I'll take out comments that are particularly hard hitting or particularly that's smart. Who reads the answers? Me. I do. I know it's baffling, isn't it? But yeah, no, that all comes straight to me. So yeah, I read absolutely everything, and if you said something that I think that's a very good a good way of summarising something, or that's something we've not heard before, or that's a request we hadn't considered, but gosh, that's interesting. Then I'll elevate that, and I'll power it on your behalf. Everything else just will get summarised, and we also use that to pull together the upcoming route recommendations as well.
We're still using the results of the last survey, even now.
Yeah,
we refer to it all the time. It's so useful.
Well, it's going to get updated. So the route recommendation list, we'll do another pass at that. And when it comes to route recommendations, we look at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and then we go and look at the forums, and then we go and look at the survey data that we've got going on, and then we kind of collate that and rank them in order of the number of times they've been referenced, and the depth and the variety that's being referenced as being a good route. Now, for some things, we'll go like Australia is a great example, right? Australia is our number 3 most requested thing that we include, but that's because I've grouped quite a few Australian routes together, because the sense that I've picked up in taking on that feedback is, please just do anything Australian, anything at all. Some people want a suburban Sydney commuter service. Some people want some heavy freight, but fundamentally, please. Anyway, there you go. So where is the survey? Survey's not out yet. Survey will be out soon. You won't miss it. I'll tell you that for nothing. When the survey's out, you won't be able to miss it. It will definitely be thrust in front of your face in more than one occasion. On more than one occasion. Yes. Is Rush Hour coming out on August the 26th? Well, Joshua, since you asked the question, I'm going to confirm the release date of Rush Hour right here and now. Oh, hang on, no, I'm not. No, Josh, we're not going to tell you the answer. What? If you think about it, the place, we asked our audience, which place do you think they're going to announce for the first time the release date of Rush Hour? Is it A, on some big snazzy trailer, B, on Dovetail Live, C, in a newsletter of some kind, or D, buried an hour and 36 minutes into the launch stream for Cane Creek?
Oh, it definitely should be D, totally.
Yeah.
Easter egg then for people that are watching.
No, look. I don't mean to make fun of you. Well, obviously, I do mean to make fun of you. But it's done with love. It is jest in love, because it's a question we get a lot, and everybody wants to know.
I try every stream, mate.
Josh says he tries it every stream, waiting for a slip up. Good effort. Yeah, you've got to try harder than that to catch me out. Everyone else is saying summer 2021. I'm not even saying that. You ask me, I say later this year, because I'm an old cynic.
Someone asked about the number lights, and I did just flip the switch on the back there 2 or 3 times, and these number lights are not going on and off, so that would be a no. Or if they are, then they are much more subtle than they should be. They should be blazingly obvious. Right, okay. 1.9 miles left. We're almost at Brendel.
Okay. So, for those of you saying, no, the lights do work, you just have to flip them on. Apparently, flipping them on might make you imagine that the lights came on, in which case, then let's call that a working feature.
They're on. Oh, no, they're crosswalk lights. Front number lights.
They're on as well.
Yeah, they were on. What do they look like now? No, they look the same to me.
All right, do it again. Flick them back on. I'll be the judge of that. If there's a difference there, it is subtle.
It's too subtle.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. If it is
I would have said that there wasn't any difference, no. But who knows?
I don't think so. I think I'm going to assume that's not working, and then wait to be proven wrong.
Ian asks if I'm leaving DTG. No. Someone earlier asked if Matt was leaving. Neither of us are leaving. This isn't the Matt and Sam farewell tour or anything along those lines. No, I'm not going anywhere. I have moved back down to my previous days per week. My role's changed a little bit, but no, I'm not going anywhere. Will they be fixed if they do not work? Okay, so what happens? This is a general catch-all for if you've reported something that isn't working and it is supposed to. Now, firstly, categorise, I think the colour of this fence is wrong. That's subjective feedback. Now, you might be 100% correct, but that fence is working the way we designed it to work. However, this light switch doesn't do anything, and it's obviously supposed to. If the light switch is supposed to do something, and it doesn't do it, then that is not working as designed. And therefore it is more likely to be addressed. Not guaranteed to be addressed, because it really depends if it's going to interfere with gameplay, or whether it is going to be this interferes with immersion. and we don't want to interfere with immersion, but sometimes these things happen. Anyway, if yours is in the second category, so if this is something that is not working as it was designed to work, then it will go into a tracker of every issue of that kind. The QA team will then verify that report is accurate, and obviously the more people make the report, the faster that gets done, because they kind of go, we've got loads of people reporting this, let's go check it. The more people report it, it also indicates the strength of how important is this? How important is this issue? The more people that yell about it, obviously the more important it is. So if you spot something that bugs you a bit, you kind of go, yeah, no, I'll get away with it. I'll live with it. Or you could just kind of go, no, I'm going to report that, even if a ton of other people have done already, because that increases the likelihood that it becomes looked at.
Yeah.
So yeah, it goes into kind of a triage approach for what is then addressed. Later on, when the preservation crew get round to looking at the route, it's that kind of stuff that can be swept up, picked up immediately, and fixed as part of the suite of fixes that go out. But there will be a bunch of changes that go in an update when the next update rolls around.
And of course, this is also a Skyhook product, so we'll pass that feedback on to Skyhook for them to deal with.
Yeah,
and to
absolutely.
decide how that fits with their own plans. But yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. I could have just said, that's up to Skyhook. And then smiled and nodded and kind of relaxed about the fact that it had been thrown under the bus. But no, I think we collectively take responsibility for whether something is good.
Oh, absolutely,
yeah. Matan, another good question. You're on form this evening, Matan. Will there ever be steam locos on this route? I tell you, I was thinking this earlier on. I was thinking this would be a belter to chuck a steam train up. The scenery with a steam train doing all of the action going on, that would be very, very nice. We've got no plans, obviously. No, I'm not going to tell you anything new. But no, I agree with you. I think it would look absolutely stormy.
Totally agree. Steam looks good anywhere, let's be honest. I mean, it is the universal great train.
Have we got any random... Are we likely to encounter traffic that is going to cause us to encounter an adverse signal?
Well, on the branch line, which is the majority of this route, there really aren't... There's no way opportunity for other trains. There are no other signals. They only run one train at a time on the branch line, which then means they don't have to invest in all of the complex and expensive infrastructure of signals and so forth. So in reality, this route sees one train a week. So they don't need...
I can see another one now. That must be it.
Well, we're on the main line. So we're just coming off the main line into a yard. So he's being held up by me. But yes, it's... but the majority of the route down here, which is this bit here, this is the branch line. This is the Cane Creek line. This is single train in operation, so you wouldn't see anything else down there, and there's no signals, so there's nothing to be checked by. If you found another train, then first thing you'd do is probably be really surprised and throw your emergency brakes
on. Someone asked whether we would look at the Canadian... Yeah, Raphael, again. Are we going to look at the Canadian route in the future? Yes, we are. That will be one that is addressed by Adam's team. It will be in the rotation. Exactly when that will happen, good time to ask. Could be on a roadmap stream. But yeah, it's going to be looked at. Look, Ashley at ECM squared. I'm not bothered whether steam ran on this route or not. I think it would look great on this route. There. So the solution would be wait until steam comes out, and then just use the scenario planner to sling a cheeky steam train up there. I most definitely will be, but it probably won't be until after I've chucked every cheeky steam train down LGV. It's the speed test. It's got to be done. You've got to do the speed test on a new train. There don't appear to be any people on this route, much like Clinchfield. Have we decided to depopulate the USA?
So we're still trying to work out the best way of putting people on a route where those people are not passengers. So we've got automated systems for creating passengers on stations, and they will appear and they'll walk around and they'll get on trains. But if they're not actually on the station, we did originally try some ideas in CSX Heavy Haul, and one of the challenges there is actually just having enough character artists and character animators to create all of that stuff, and that's one area that we have actually not had enough on, and we're trying to resolve. If we can get some more character artists and animators on the team, then we'd be able to do some more fun stuff like that, because actually putting characters in various places would have to be done. It's tricky because you've got to kind of do it on a if it's got to be responsive to what's going on. Otherwise, the guy standing there waving at you will be there all of the time, so it can't be in the route. It's got to be part of the scenario or part of the service mode. Now, currently in service mode, we can't dynamically add scenery, but in scenarios we can, and we do try to add some extra stuff on some of the routes. Like Sandpatch Grade, for example, had one of the scenarios, Powering America Part 2, where when you get back to Sandpatch Tunnel, the tracks are shut down due to work, and there's a work crew there and working on one of the tracks. So
yeah,
they are there, but no, it is tricky, and some of it's just down to the people that have got the skills to do that, because it's got specialists.
See, Fragile Chaos, that's the way to ask a rush hour question. I imagine this has been asked 100 times already. Have we by any chance mentioned when the rush hour is coming out? Have we mentioned? No, we haven't. No, we haven't. No one's told anybody about rush hour release dates yet. We certainly haven't said that it's going to be on the 31st of September. Certainly haven't told anybody that.
Right, so in the SD40...
That's a joke, incidentally. There is no 31st of September. That's the joke, right? We haven't said it. There is no date. Until you see a date in big flashing letters all over the joint, there is no date.
Yes. Right, so this is the SD40-2. Let's do a quick power up on that. So this is the generator field switch. Remember the three switches we had in the AC40-400. That's that one on. Headlights on. Insert the reverser and put it to forward. And then let's turn the gauge lights on. Put the brakes into freight, release, and apply the independent brake. Right, so we've now got the rest of the train releasing its brakes. That will take time. But I've locked the train with the independent brakes, so we shouldn't go anywhere. I now need to put the MU2A valve into lead. So if you remember on the AC4400, we did the cut-in and we did the lead. Well, this is the old-school analog version of what we did on the computer, is those two switches there. So because we're at the front, using the cut-off valve, you cut in the brakes to freight, and then you put it into lead in this section. So the brakes are currently doing their thing, charging up. So this white here is the brake pipe, so you can see that coming up. And then once it gets up enough, well, actually this is being held by the independent brake, so that's what's holding us still. But you can see this is the brake pipe coming up on the train. So that's good to go. Check the back wall here. Number lights on the front. Let's make sure the isolation switch is set to run. And we are controlling with a unit coupled at the long hood end. What does that mean? Well, these American trains have a short hood end and a long hood end, and there's a unit coupled to the long hood end. What that's doing is it's saying where does it send messages about lights controls to. So it's just telling it sending out of that port, out of the long end port. So that's done. We don't need the engine room lights on. Safety systems in here are under, so we're in radio, which is this thing, which gives me see what the brake pipe pressure is in the back. If I turn that off, you can see that.
It lets you see what? It sounded like you merged 20 words into one there.
The brake pipe pressure at the back of the train.
Brake pipe pressure.
The thing we couldn't see for some reason when we had an AC4400 at the back. This is now telling us, and I'll go to the back of the train and show you how it knows that in a minute. This is the warning devices, so this gives me the alerter. So we'll close that again. So the train's now ready to go. Well, we'll just leave the brakes a minute to do their thing.
You've got the ditch lights.
Ditch lights need to go on. There's the ditch lights.
Yeah.
Number lights, headlights, lots of lights.
They are proper glowy as well.
They're proper glowy. That's what it should look like when it's on, with the number lights here. If you turn the number lights off, you can see they're on and off. I was going to say, I had to check. It didn't quite look
I tell you, the number lights off look a little bit more on than they do on the 4400.
Yeah. This is the new ridged hopper, or ribbed hopper, sorry, that's new to this pack. This is the new wagon that Skyhook made. Freight car, sorry. And then these are some small reskin variants of the cover 3-bay covered hopper that is in the Sandpatch grade that's been copied over from there and modified. And then at the back of the train, you've got no head of train device. Excellent. All right, there's supposed to be an end of train device there. Nice. So this data is coming from Magic Land. Excellent. Right, so the brakes are pretty much where they need to be now. So I'm just going to go ahead and release the brake. I should have checked my amps first, but fortunately we're working. And away we go. So I've got triple SD40s leading. I do like the SD40s.
You know I'm a fan. I haven't driven one in ages, actually. I'll have to find an excuse to drive one. Do USA trains not have tail lights?
They don't have red lights at the, but there's supposed to be an end of train device at the back with a flashing red light on it. I don't know why that's not showing up. I know some of the ones. So in the last previous stream, it was there, no problem at all. So I've obviously just hit the jackpot here. If these three locos were just running on their own without freight cars, then they would probably have lights on the back. I think. Can't remember now actually, but they've got no red lights on them to show, so they wouldn't get it that way, or they just have the end of train device on there.
Yeah. Could we have a good, satisfying honk, please? There was a road traffic collision just there.
I chose not to see that.
Hard off.
So we're also aware that the ditch lights are flashing, which is not appropriate for Union Pacific as well. So we've fed that back to Skyhook. Union Pacific don't do flashing ditch lights.
They don't believe in disco.
No. We're actually down a different end. We're right at the very, very bottom end, just at Potash. And if you haven't gone and had a look at Google Maps to find Potash, I recommend you do, because just you can't see it on the route, but just about here somewhere are the Potash ponds, and they're really interesting to look at, just because they're just really different colours.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing to see, as almost as a what the heck is that? Because they show up as these bright coloured things. It's because of what they're doing.
For those asking why is the horn the same as we've used before, we did about 15 minutes on horn sounds at the start of the stream, maybe about 10 minutes into the stream. Go check back there and you'll get a good amount of information. Is this a new water texture?
I don't think so.
It has to be said, I've not really examined water textures other than Isle of Wight. And it does look, it doesn't tile quite, I mean it still tiles a little bit, but it doesn't tile quite as badly as Isle of Wight does.
Yeah. There you go. Little train, big rocks.
That is quite impressive. Right, what else do we need to show off today, or are we about there?
I think this was it. We've done a run up the route, and really that's it. We've shown the SD40 now, as we have done in previous streams. You've had a good run with the AC4400, and that's it. That's the Cane Creek, folks.
Yeah. It is available now on Steam and on PlayStation and on Xbox. You can go pick it up if it looks like the sort of thing you fancy. We've done other streams previewing the route, including several on console. No, one. Have we done one on console?
One on console. We did the PS4 Pro was the first one.
We did a PS4 Pro on console. If you want to go see how it performs on older generation consoles. And we will be back next week. There isn't a train Railfan TV. That's what we're called. There isn't a Railfan TV stream tomorrow. So you have your Friday night to yourself, and then we'll be back next week with more of a variety of things that could potentially be interesting.
Super.
That's me saying I don't know what's on next week. No, it's Roadmap week next week, isn't it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Okay.
Excellent.
Good.
All right then, folks. Thank you very much indeed for watching, and we'll catch you on the next stream. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.